And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Vicki for the presentation.
All right. Well, thank you for having me tonight, and thank you for being interested in financial aid and making WashU possible for you as far as the finances are concerned, for sure. I am one of the counselors in the Student Financial Services Office, and we have 4 counselors, and as you are admitted to the university, you are assigned a personal counselor to follow you for the 4 years. So just know that, we are going to help you once you're admitted to make it possible for you to be at WashU, but we also want to follow you for the 4 years and be with you the whole time. In case any concerns come about or questions come about, we'll be there with you the whole time. One of the, of course, talking about financial aid, you hear a lot on the street as far as, your neighbor probably has had experience with some colleges, or there's, different news that you read about financial aid. So it can be confusing, but hopefully tonight this presentation will let you know exactly what we need from you to make it possible to finance your education at WashU, to make it possible for you to be here, to not miss any deadline dates, and to go over any concerns and questions that you may have. So financial aid can come from a variety of resources, different sources. Of course, Washington University has merit and need-based aid. We have the federal government that has their programs. The state where you live, so in the state of Missouri, Missouri residents will have some resources available to them, as well as outside sources from nonprofit and private organizations. So how do we benefit from all of this and make sure that we tap into every resource that's available for us? And that's what we want to go over today. So from Washington University, we have 2 different types of aid. We have both merit-based aid, which is based on your academics. What have you done? What have you done in high school? What are you bringing to the table? What are you going to be studying? And what are your goals while you're at WashU? Those type of merit-based scholarships are available from each of our 5 academic divisions, as well as there are university-wide signature scholar programs. And we'll dive into that a little bit deeper in the presentation. There's also need-based aid, and need-based aid is based on your family's financial situation. So we will need some information from you regarding your family's finances, and we'll dig a little bit deeper into the need-based aid, because that's where we might need more information and require some additional forms for you to fill out in order to qualify you for need-based aid. So let's start from the beginning, and let's talk about what is it going to cost for you to be at WashU. So when we talk about cost, right, there's direct costs and there's indirect costs. Direct costs are the costs that the university is going to be charging you directly. So if you go on our website, you'll know exactly what tuition, room and board, and fees are for this year. Next year's costs are not posted yet, and we will know that sometime in January. But these direct costs are billed directly through WashU. You will have a student account that these will be charged on. But in addition to these costs, you will also have indirect costs, which are travel costs, books, as far as travel, any other expenses that you may have that the university doesn't charge you, but that you will have. So we always, when we talk about what is your total cost of attendance, or what do you need to be thinking about when you look at the total cost, we always say, what is it going to cost from the time you leave your home and attend WashU in August, right, next August, all the way until you go home for the summer the following May? What are the entire costs? And that's what we're looking at when we talk about cost of attendance, and that's what we want to make sure that we take into consideration. Once we know your cost of attendance, another important number that we need is what your family contribution is. So this is the amount per year, per student, that is expected based on the forms that you fill out, based on your family's financial situation and demographics. Based on this is what your expected family contribution is. And this is an important number. You'll hear this a lot as the EFC. Again, this is your expected family contribution, and this is going to be part of the financial aid formula. So we want to make sure that you understand what the expected family contribution is. The expected family contribution is made up of different information, demographics. The biggest driver for your family contribution is income. So based on your family's income, In addition, there's assets, there's savings. They even look at how old the oldest parent is, what state you live in. So there's a number of information pieces that come into play. For instance, if your income is $50,000 in California, that's a big difference from having $50,000 of income in Missouri. So your family contribution is going to be different depending on how much income you make, where you live, how many are in your household, as well as how many students are in college. And there's also special circumstances that later we'll go into a little bit deeper that affect this family contribution. So when we look at what your family contribution is, or if you have already filled out the family contribution, that's not saying that is what your family has to pay. There may be special circumstances that change that, and you may win scholarships that your family will not have to pay that. But again, that is a basis of financial aid and what we look at in determining what your financial aid award is going to be. So I talked earlier about cost of attendance, so we know how to come up with that. And then we subtract this family contribution. That then allows us to be able to create a financial aid award. And like Kendall said in the beginning, we meet 100% of demonstrated need. So whatever your cost is minus your family contribution is what you can expect WashU to provide in financial aid to make it possible for you to join us. I want to just give a quick scenario here of two different families. Let's say family A has a family contribution of $20,000. Our cost for this school year, and this is the total cost, so direct cost, indirect costs, were about $79,586. For family A, whose family contribution was $20,000, they would have received a financial aid award from our office of $59,586. Family B, on the other hand, let's say their family contribution was $100. So this family, the $100 from the total cost, their award would have been $79,486. So again, demonstrating that we meet 100% of demonstrated need in financial aid to make it possible for you to be here. When we talk about family contribution, your family contribution is the same at no matter what institution you apply to. So if you decide to apply to WashU and then you decide to apply to a state institution, your family contribution is still the same. So at Washington University, again, if our cost was $79,586 and your family contribution was $20,000, you know that our award is that $59,586. On the other hand, if you apply to a state school, let's say whose cost is $30,000 and your family contribution is $20,000, from that institution, you would only receive need-based aid of $10,000. And so that's kind of giving you an example of how your family contribution remains the same at no matter what institution you apply to. If you're interested, if you have not tried to fill out the FAFSA form and you don't know what your family contribution is and you'd like to try out some calculators, feel free to go to our website, financialaid.worcester.edu, and we have several calculators on our website. If you would like to just know a general idea of what type of financial aid you would be eligible for, you can try the My Intuition calculator. It asks 6 basic questions, and it'll give you a range of, based on the information that you provided, the class that just entered into the university, this is the range of financial aid that this class would have received, and this will give you a wide range. If you want to give a little bit more information, a little bit more detailed information about your family income, assets, and all of that, and get a more specific or a better idea of what your family contribution is, you can try the net price calculator, and that will give you specifically for your situation, this is what your financial aid will be. Now, I also want to say that the calculator is good in the sense that your family income, assets, and all of that is the same every year. That's not always the case. So if you have special circumstances or if you win any merit scholarships, the calculators do not take this into consideration. So the calculators are only as good as the information that's put into it. So again, if you don't have any special circumstances and you just want to know your need-based aid, I think these are good calculator tools to start with. So now let's talk about how to apply for financial aid. So we talked about the merit-based and need-based aid. There's two different avenues, of course, and there's different documents or essays and forms that you will need to fill out. For the merit-based side, we do have full tuition and half tuition scholarships from each of the 5 academic divisions. In addition, we also have the Signature Scholars programs. For the divisional scholarships, that is automatic. You will automatically be considered for those with your supplemental essay on your common application. But for the signature scholarships, please look at admissions website if you have not yet to look into what you still need to fill out in order to apply for the signature scholarships. Those require a separate essay. All academic scholarship applications are due by January 2nd, so you want to make sure that you do not miss that deadline. Academic scholarships are only awarded to first-year students for the 4 years that they're here, so there are no upper-class academic scholarships that you will be able to apply to. So please do not miss the deadline date. Make sure January 2nd that you have your essay questions, applications all in, and that way you will be in for the running for the merit scholarships. Now for the need-based scholarships, it's a little bit more information that we're going to have to gather. You are going to have to fill out some financial aid documents so that we know what your family situation is, what, again, the expected family contribution is, so that we know what we are able to create. So all applications for this next year, for the 2021-2022 school year, that's hard to say. Basically, all the forms are available as of October 1st. So these forms are now available. The FAFSA and the CSS profile are the 2 documents that we need for all custodial households, meaning the house that you live in. So for some families, if you're from a divorced or separated family, you will need a 3rd form, which is called the non-custodial parent statement. I do want to specify, though, the FAFSA form, for students who are international students, you will not fill out the FAFSA form because that is a federal form. The FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, so only domestic U.S. citizens and permanent residents would be able to fill out the FAFSA form. So for international students, you will fill out the CSS profile form, and that's the only document that you will need to apply for financial aid. The FAFSA form, I always recommend filling out online. Every student and every parent will need to get what's called the FSA ID number, which is the Federal Student Aid ID number. Keep this handy with you as each year to reapply for financial aid for U.S. citizens. You will have to fill out that FAFSA each year. By having this Federal Student Aid ID number and using that each year, it pulls all the information that you've already submitted, so it makes it much easier when you apply for aid each year. So let's dig a little bit deeper into these forms, just because it's important to how you list the information that you provide. And I just need to make sure that we understand that there is a difference between custodial and non-custodial, and it's not illegal, it's not anything that's written in stone, it's just whoever the student lives with the most. For those families that are divorced or separated, the custodial household is who the student lives with the most. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's nothing binding, but it is, you just have to pick the student or the household that the student lives with the most. So the custodial parents fill out both the CSS profile and the FAFSA form. You will be using your 2019 tax information, and you can get this by looking at your tax forms. 2019, you pull your adjusted gross income to provide income information. In addition to your tax forms, you will also need to have non-taxable income information. So this is information, so for instance, if you put into a retirement account, this is non-taxable income, you will need to get that from your W-2. If there's any child support received, that also is included in this non-taxable income. So this is provided on the profile form and the FAFSA form. The CSS profile also asks for home equity information, so you will want to gather information regarding the value of your home, as well as any kind of debt, mortgage, home equity loans that you have against it, so that you can list that information correctly. The FAFSA does not require home equity information, so that is only required on the CSS profile. In addition, liquid assets, cash savings, other investments, you will also have to have that information. One piece of information that I want to make sure that everybody understands is for those families that have 529 college accounts, you want to make sure that this account information is listed on the parent section and not the student section. It makes a big difference whether a parent has some assets or the student has assets. So make sure that any 529s are listed on the parent side. In addition, there's a question about retirement accounts on the CSS profile. Washington University does not use that information, but it is asked. Just so you know, you may need to pull your information or your portfolio on your retirement information for the CSS profile form. And in addition, there is questions for students. So students have to list any income or assets that they have as well. So this is a lot of information, but it's just, again, information that you have to pull. Being organized and getting all that before you start filling out the forms might be helpful. You will be able to save these forms as you're filling them out, but it is time consuming to stop and then put your password in again and then come back. So if you have information gathered before you start these forms, it will make the process a lot easier. For those that have to fill out the non-custodial parent statement, I just want to go real quickly over what you will need for that. Again, tax forms from 2019 using the adjusted gross income, any non-taxable income, retirement accounts. Again, this is not used, but it is asked on the CSS profile form. Any assets, investments, as well as home equity will be needed on the non-custodial parent statement on the CSS profile. So that was a lot, but once we have all that information, then we can kind of move forward. One tip on the FAFSA form, when you're filling out for those that are filling out the FAFSA form, as you're filling out your, you pull your tax information, you're putting your adjusted gross income, you are going to be prompted to use the IRS data retrieval tool. And what this question is asking is, do you want to leave FAFSA right now and go to the IRS and pull your tax information? If you are prompted to do this, you definitely want to do it. About 30% of students that fill out this federal form are selected for what's called verification, which means now the school has to verify everything that has been put on the FAFSA, especially because it's all electronic. The Department of Education requires us to verify this. If you have used the IRS data retrieval tool, meaning when you're prompted to do this, if you say, yes, I want to go to the IRS, I want to pull all my tax information, number one, there's less room for error, right? You're not having to key any information in. You're pulling everything from the IRS, so you know everything's correct. In addition, if you are selected or your student selected for verification, once you've completed this, then that's one less step that you're going to have to do if you're selected for verification. So I highly recommend doing it. If you are not prompted to do this, don't worry. If your marital status has changed since your 2019 filing, if you've amended your tax returns for 2019, if you've filed for head of household, some of these are not going to allow you to use the IRS data retrieval tool, so you may not be prompted to do it. It's okay. If you're not prompted to do it, don't worry about it. Just continue as you are. Just manually input information. But if you are prompted to, I highly recommend using that. It just makes the process a lot easier. So once we have all of your documents and you're admitted to the university, now we're ready to move on and see what kind of financial information, the type of financial aid that you will receive. So once you're admitted to the university, you will get it, of course, admissions will give their offer of admission, but we will also from our office provide you with your financial aid award. Financial aid award is comprised of three components: scholarship, which is your free money, work study, which is earned money while you can work while you're in school, and then student loans, which are borrowed money. We'll go into each of these. So scholarships and grants, I said, was the free money. So this is going to be where you're really going to want to focus on, right? You want to make sure you don't miss the merit application deadlines. You want to make sure that you don't miss any deadlines for financial aid so that we can give the best financial aid package that we can from the university. But in addition, there's also federal and state grants that you want to, that we can put as part of your award package by filling out the forms that we need, as well as outside scholarships. And outside scholarship, the policy right now for Washington University is Any outside scholarships that you receive are stacked on top of anything that we offer. So any scholarships that are awarded, whether they're merit-based or need-based from WashU, outside scholarships will stack on top of that. So the more you earn, the less your family contribution is. So you definitely want to start focusing on that if you have not been able to. I usually say November to March are big deadline dates for outside scholarships. So definitely start looking at different databases online and start asking your counselors for information for outside scholarships if you have not started that already. The second component of your award is a work-study job, and this is where you can earn money while you are in school. The work-study does not come off of the bill, but this is, again, so there's no obligation to work, but if you do work, you will earn money as you go, and it also helps build your resume in addition to getting your college degree. And the third component is student loans. And if you have to borrow at all, there are student loans from the federal government. All first-year students can get $5,500. The interest rates this year are at 2.75%. So they are going to be your lowest source of interest, or lowest interest in loans as far as loans go. So if you are awarded them and you need to tap into them, you definitely want to do that. Just a real quick run on outside scholarships. I had mentioned that they are stacked on top of anything that we offer. So, don't overlook any of the smaller scholarships. If you see any scholarships for $500 or $1,000, of course, you hope to win $5,000 or $10,000 scholarships, but those are also more in demand, and they're also going to require a lot more work. So focus on every possible scholarship that you can so that we can keep your contribution down and make it possible for you to be with us. If there are any family contributions that's still left after all of your scholarships, then there are different ways for families to pay for college. There's 529 plans, there's prepaid tuition plans. The federal government has parent loans. Washington University has our own parent program that we can help you with, as well as there's monthly payments. And then you can also tap into home equity loans if that's something that you need to do. I'm almost running out of time, so but I do want to focus on a couple of key points, and these are really important features with financial aid at WashU. Three important things to remember, and we've harped on this a couple times, is that we do meet 100% of demonstrated needs. So it's really important that as you fill out these forms, that you fill them out as accurately as possible. And if there's anything that you need to relay to us, that we understand that, so that when we do create your award, that we know the whole picture and we can give you the best package up front. For families that come from income below $75,000, we do not offer any student loans. I had mentioned earlier that all first-year students are eligible for $5,500 in student loans. Students that come from families of income below $75,000, we replace those loans with an additional grant. So you will have no loans in your award package. You will only have scholarships and grants along with work study. The third important program that we also have is that if anything happens throughout the year, you need to reach out to us. Again, you will have a personal counselor. You want to reach out to your counselor and let us know what's going on. If anybody loses a job or anything happens, any elder care expenses that pop up all of a sudden, anything that happens, you need to reach out to us so that we can review your award, even if it's in the middle of the year. And there's a couple of new programs that we started a couple years back. One is the award of first-year grants. This is for all first-year students who are either Pell eligible or come from families with income below $75,000. In addition to meeting 100% of your demonstrated need, we also award these first-year grants that include a technology grant. And this is $1,115 towards the purchase of a computer. In addition, there's $1,500 towards startup costs because, of course, furnishing a dorm room your first year, or, there's maybe additional things that you need to buy to get going with or get started with college. So we give you that $1,500 your first year as well. In addition, we also eliminate summer earnings expectation of $1,550. What that means is every student we know probably works over the summer, and we expect that everybody's able to provide some of their summer earnings towards their college expenses. For first-year grant recipients, we eliminate this and we give an additional grant of $1,550. Again, this is all on top of the 100% demonstrated need that we award. So this is, again, the first-year grants that we award. In addition, there's also what we call the WashU Pledge. This was started 2 years ago. Again, families that are Pell eligible or that come from families with income below $75,000. What we promise and commit to is if you are from either the state of Missouri or Southern Illinois, we commit to full 4 years of tuition, fees, room and board. In addition, again, these students are also eligible for the additional first-year grants that I talked about earlier, which is the technology grant, the startup grant, as well as the summer earnings replacement grant. So those are a couple of the good programs that we have for first-year students. But in addition, sometimes things happen, right? So I want to kind of talk a little bit about the responsiveness that WashU provided in response to COVID. This was something that happened in the middle of the year. It happened during spring break while our students were on spring break, and we had to make the decision that we did not want students that were on spring break to come back home because of what was going on. We wanted to keep everybody safe. So Washington University in the middle of the school year decided what we needed to do was to be responsive. Everybody that was study abroad, we brought back home, and we paid for their airfare back home. For students that had to go from whether they were on spring break or whether they were at home, they still needed all their belongings that were at the university because it was still here. We made sure that that got all sent home, and that was all, again, the university being responsive to the situation. For students who weren't able to fulfill their work study, they weren't able to come back to campus and work their jobs and to earn money, we made sure and covered that expense for them, as well as for students who weren't able to go home for the summer for whatever reason. Maybe they were from a country where, due to the COVID, they weren't able to go back, or maybe somebody in their family, due to the immunity, couldn't have the student come back. We made sure that they had their expenses covered for the summer. So this is just a quick rundown of not only in addition to students that are coming in, are we responsive, but we're also responsive to students that are here in the event that something like this happens. And again, it doesn't have to be this drastic. It could be, hopefully more simple, but we will be responsive whenever the need arises. And I just kind of want to reiterate that. So most importantly, how do we make sure that we don't miss any deadlines? Here's a quick rundown on the deadline dates. If you're applying for Early Decision 2, all financial aid forms are needed by January 15th in order for us to provide financial aid for you for the upcoming year. And then we will release decisions on February 15th. For regular decision students, you have until February 1st to fill out the FAFSA CSS form, and decisions will be made by April 1st. So please do not miss these deadline dates to ensure the best possible financial aid. And to kind of recap, first, consider the value and the fit. If you still see WashU as your choice, this is where you want to be, then, we want to make it possible for you to be here. So we need to make sure that, you fill out the forms, that you understand what you need to apply for, then what's available to you, and to make it possible for you to be here. And number two, tell us your story. Is there something going on in your family? Was 2019, all the information that you're providing now on the forms are from 2019. Did 2020 change? It changed for a lot of people. So if that's something that's the case for you, you just need to let us know, and make sure you fill out the special circumstances that's on the CSS profile form. Or if you need to, you can go to our website and we have a special circumstance form for you to relay that to us. And thirdly, make a friend in the financial aid office. I mentioned in the beginning, each of you are going to have a personal counselor that's going to be assigned to you. We don't want to be there just in the beginning. We want to be there for all 4 years. If you decide you want to go study abroad in your junior year, reach out to us. Ask how your financial aid is going to work, and we'll be happy to go over that with you. So I know it was a quick rundown and a lot of information, but I hope this helps answer some of your questions. And if you had any concerns, hopefully I've addressed them. But what I'd like to do at this point is to kind of open it back up, invite Kendall back to the screen. I'm going to kind of log off our presentation here, and Kendall's going to help answer any admissions questions that may come about. We will be answering, I will hopefully be able to answer a lot of financial aid questions live for you over the next, I think, like about 30 minutes. But if you have any specific financial aid questions, we ask that we will not go over them live, and we ask that you just reach out to our office directly after this presentation. Call us, email us, and we'd be happy to help you. So thank you for your time, and I'd like to now open it up to any questions that may come in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vicki. And to just reiterate what you just said, there are amazing counselors in student financial services. As Vicki mentioned, you are matched by last name, and it's really great to kind of start that communication. You get to keep the same counselor throughout your years at WashU, which is really helpful. So anything specific to your personal situation that you feel like it doesn't quite make sense with the general, definitely reach out for those specific questions. But thank you so much for all of the questions you have submitted thus far. We have a ton, so we'll do our best to get through as many as possible. Starting us off, do we offer financial aid to international students?
Yes, we meet 100% of demonstrated need for international students as well. The only difference with international students is, of course, international students cannot get federal government loans because they're not filling out the federal financial aid form, but definitely meet 100% of demonstrated need. International students can apply for all of the merit scholarships other than the urban scholarship, which requires the FAFSA form. So yes, definitely all of that is available to international students as well.
Great. Does WashU reevaluate financial aid offers every year, or can we expect a comprehensive plan across all 4 years from the start?
Yes and no. So financial aid can be similar every year if your financial situation is similar every year. But things change, finances change, number in college changes. So if you have any concerns and you want us, to go over what it's going to look like for the 4 years, we're more than happy to do that. But again, we do reevaluate every year. You do need to fill out the FAFSA form. For students that can fill out the FAFSA form. For international students, you will fill out the CSS profile each year, and financial aid is reevaluated every year.
Great. Aside from completing the FAFSA and the CSS profile, is there any additional steps that we should consider? Should we research other scholarships on our own, or does WashU provide a list of our scholarships?
So in addition to outside scholarships, I would recommend first maybe talking to your high school counselor. They have networks within your community. So your community network of scholarships is probably going to be easier to apply to than a national, let's say Coca-Cola or Boeing scholarship, right? There's going to be less applicants, so definitely talk to your counselor. I always recommend fastweb.com. GoMary.com is another one. That's GOMERRY.com. Or any other databases. I always say do not pay for outside scholarships. There are companies that will charge to help you look for scholarships, but that's not necessary. There's enough databases out there and free resources to search for outside scholarships.
Super helpful tips, Vicki. This next one I think I can answer just fine, but can we apply for merit-based scholarships without SAT or ACT scores? Yes, you can apply for all of the merit-based scholarships as well as our need-based financial aid without submitting testing. We are truly test optional this year, so totally up to you if you'd like to send us test scores or not. Next question we have is, if we apply for merit-based scholarships, should we refrain from applying for need-based aid?
No, I always recommend applying for need-based aid if you think you need need-based aid. You don't want to wait for the merit scholarships to be announced. And, need-based also, the federal work study or the student loans are also part of your need-based aid. So I definitely recommend applying for both if you are going to apply for need-based aid.
Yes, totally recommend the same. Next one, what is your financial aid policy for undocumented students?
So undocumented students at this time are not eligible for the federal aid, but we will meet 100% of demonstrated need through Washington University through our need-based scholarships.
All right. How should I report 2020 changes of my FAFSA to the school?
So I had talked about, for students that are filling out the FAFSA, you will also fill out the CSS profile. As you're filling out the CSS profile form, one of the questions that comes about is your special circumstances, and it will ask for your projected income for 2020 as well as for 2021. So you want to make sure and list that information, as well as in the special circumstance section, let us know what happened and be quantitative. So for instance, if 2019 included a $10,000 bonus that you know you're not going to be receiving in 2020, be that specific and don't say, I'm not getting the bonus that I had, because that doesn't allow us to make any changes. Be specific, quantitative, and let us know my income for 2020 is going to be X dollar amount lower because of whatever. And that will allow us to make the changes that we need to be able to prepare the best aid package.
Excellent. I'm really excited for this next question to learn a little bit more as well, but how does Raise Me work?
Okay, so Raise Me is through the, 4 years through high school, you can earn scholarship dollars through the university by doing certain things, whether it's community service or getting A's or whatnot. And so with each dollar that you receive, we commit to awarding you that, or that being part of your financial aid package when you receive your financial aid award. And again, that's just money and scholarships that you accumulate during your high school years that translate into dollars in our financial aid package.
Yes. A form of micro scholarships, I think is
yes.
So really cool to look into Raise Me.
Yes.
Asking a little bit more about need aware versus need blind. So how does WashU factor need into the admissions process? I think I can take this one. So WashU is a need-aware institution. This means that we do take into consideration when we are reviewing our students how much financial aid a family will have. I have always seen this as a factor because we make sure to answer fill 100% of demonstrated need for all of our students. When you're being admitted, we want to make sure that we have 100% of the funds to give you to make WashU affordable for you and your family. That being said, it's a small factor. It doesn't come up until after 2 full reads of your application, multiple people have seen how awesome and amazing you are as a student. Then at the very end, we make sure that everything fits in with our budget. So it's never a make or break part of the admissions process, but we do keep it in mind because our 100% demonstrated need policy is so important to us. All right, next question. And I know that there's a couple different questions kind of surrounding this topic. So how does financial aid work if you live with one parent versus the other? And can you give us a little bit more information about how submitting the non-custodial report, or I forget what the extra step there is.
Okay. So how does financial aid work if you live with one parent versus the other? So the question on the FAFSA form, which is for the custodial parent, basically just says, who does the student live with the most? So, but we do have families that say, well, no, it's totally split 50-50. If that's the case, then you need to pick the select the parent that provides the most financial support as your custodial parent. And then that parent is going to fill out the FAFSA form and the CSS profile for the custodial parent. The non-custodial parent also goes to the College Board. I'm sorry, I did not mention that, I don't think, in the presentation. To fill out the CSS profile form, you go to collegeboard.org. And in filling out the CSS profile, the non-custodial parent will start an application form listing the student, and then later that application is matched with the custodial parent, and then both parent information is provided to the university. So we look at both parents as being able to contribute towards college expenses when we determine financial aid. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah. And one more follow-up, I'm not sure if you have the answer, but if a student does not have any contact with a non-custodial parent, what should they do?
So that's where the special circumstance section on the profile form helps. There is also a non-custodial parent waiver form that is available on College Board's website. So the student can fill out that information and provide as much information as they can so that as a committee we can determine, whether or not we can waive that. And of course, if there's no contact, if there's no way to get this form to them, obviously that's one of the reasons that we would probably use to waive that criteria.
Definitely. Thank you. All right. Next question we have submitted. Is there any difference in the financial aid that is available for students applying through an early decision round versus regular decision? And if a student applies early decision and is unable to afford WashU, what happens then?
Okay, so no matter what decision or whether you go early decision 2 or regular, your financial aid will be the same because your need is going to be the same, right? So your financial aid will not change whichever way you decide to go. If the financial aid package does not work for your family, first rule is to call us. You will know your financial aid counselor, contact them, and let them know why this isn't going to work. Maybe we missed something that you listed, or maybe we didn't have enough information to make adjustments. So we want to be able to know and understand everything that we've been provided. And then obviously if we absolutely cannot make it work, we'll go over all the different parent programs. We'll go over everything we possibly can to make it work. But if not, then, the decision is going to have to be left to you as to whether or not you're going to be able to accept admission.
Awesome. Thank you, Vicki. Next question is, are there options to pay tuition in monthly installments? And if so, what are those charges like?
Okay, so I can basically say what happens is we charge per semester, so fall semester and spring semester. Fall semester is charged in August and spring semester is due in January. Each semester you will have the option to spread that out over 5 months. We use a third party, so that third party charges $40 for the semester, and there's no interest. It's just basically spreading out what you owe over the 5 months, so that is an option.
All righty. Next question is, when will I receive my financial aid award?
So you will receive your financial aid award as soon as we hear from admissions that you've been admitted. We like to give that to you at the same time.
Yes, definitely. And with that, I know that a federal work aid is likely an option for students. So what types of federal work study jobs are available at WashU?
So there are a lot of different jobs that are available, anywhere from, the athletic complex has opportunities, lifeguard, reffing. The art school has the museum where you can work in the museum. Our Danforth Student Center has students that work at the help desk there. There are jobs at our medical campus working with any of the physicians or any of the departments at the medical school. Admissions, we have tour guides that are work study students. We have an intern that works in student financial services. So really everywhere across campus, there are job opportunities.
Definitely. I would say a student favorite is particularly the library jobs because they are quiet study spaces, and in downtime you can do some of your homework at the same time. So those are awesome options, but highly coveted. A follow-up question is, are there part-time jobs for students who may not qualify for a work study granted by financial aid?
Yes, so not right. So you may be awarded financial. Number one, you may not qualify for financial aid, so you may not qualify for work study, but you may have also, let's say, received financial aid and received work study, but now you've won all these outside scholarships, right? So that may eliminate your eligibility for work study. So for those students, there are campus jobs that do not require work study. I will honestly say that a lot of campus partners will ask for work study students. But there are plenty of jobs that are available on campus, at the medical school and on the Danforth campus that do not require work study. Starting next year, we will be working with the Career Center. I'm kind of excited about that because I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. There's also positions on campus that I like to mention that you can decide whether you want credit or pay for them. So a lot of our research positions, students get the option of whether they would like class credit or to be paid for that position, which is a really cool option as well. All right. Looking for our next question here. Is Pell eligibility only applicable for U.S. citizens?
Yes, the federal Pell Grant, being a federal program, is only eligible or only, yes, for students that can fill out the FAFSA form. So if you are not able to fill out the FAFSA form, you would not be eligible for the federal Pell Grant. But in saying that, you know, again, we need 100% of demonstrated need. So if your need, let's just say it's $50,000. If you were eligible for the Pell Grant, right, of $5,000, then WashU will cover the 45 and you get $5,000 from the federal government, you get $50,000. If you're not eligible for the Pell, then we need to make sure that we meet that full $50,000. So your award is still the same, just to kind of make sure that students understand that.
Yeah, just coming from a couple of different sources.
Yes.
Oh, I really like this next question. How has the Financial Aid Office been able to help students during the pandemic, particularly thinking back to last semester?
Right. So I know I kind of quickly went through that slide that we had, but, you know, I think there were, oh gosh, if I'm not mistaken, over 400 students that were, you know, abroad. And that was, I think, our biggest it was just not only the communication, but the funding and making sure that everybody was home, and then trying to get everybody from spring break, you know, back home and getting them all the items that were on campus. I think that's our biggest thing as far as last year. For this semester, you know, I think our biggest appeal was probably due to income changes. A lot of parents lost their jobs. You know, a lot of families on unemployment. And so I think those resources, as well as we were able to help, this is the first time we were able to do this, and it was because of the pandemic, is to help current students who, you know, needed to work remotely, but maybe their computers weren't up to par. Or maybe, you know, they needed, you know, additional software or even internet services if they lived in rural communities. So those are the kind of resources I think that really was totally different from a normal year, but definitely needed, and we stepped right up and was able to help those students.
Definitely, and I know how far that went. I know of one of our interns who ended up with a computer from WashU, which was super helpful for his architecture work. So really amazing work on that front. Our next question is, what is the best way to submit any additional documentation that might be needed or they want to add during the financial aid process?
So as you go into your pathway and you go under your financial aid portal, if there are any documents that need to be submitted, we will ask you to upload them. But if it's something that you just want to provide to our office, you can just email it to financial@worcester.edu, and we will be sure to add that to your file. We do have a special circumstance form that you can fill out. If, like for instance, let's say you already submitted the CSS and then something happens next week and you want to relay that to us. You cannot fill the CSS form out again. So what you want to do is go to financialaid.worcester.edu, go to our form library, download the special circumstance form for 2021-2022, and submit that to our office, and we will be able to respond accordingly.
Awesome. Is there a GPA requirement or any other requirements to renew the WashU Pledge?
So to renew the WashU Pledge, we do require the FAFSA form each year, just in case you qualify for any, of course, because especially for the state of Missouri, there are Missouri grants, both the Bright Flight and the Access Missouri grant that you may be eligible for. So we do require the application, the FAFSA application. The GPA requirement, I really don't even want to say because we follow the federal guideline, but it's a 2.0. So I really feel like, it doesn't affect any of our students. None of you have an issue with that, but that is the requirement, the GPA requirement that we follow.
Thank you. I think you might have touched on this in your presentation, but just want to double check because I see another question here. Are room and board and or flights and travel included in a financial aid package?
So it is included in the cost of attendance. So in determining your financial aid package, right, the first component is your cost of attendance. So we do include everything, travel, books, and all of that as part of your cost of attendance. Now, if your family contribution is zero, then yes, your financial aid package will cover all of that. But if your family contribution is, let's say, $10,000, then there is going to be a portion that your family will pay towards those expenses. So it all depends on your family contribution as to how much your financial aid award will cover.
Great. Looking for our next question again. All right, I see. What are the need-based scholarships at WashU and how do you apply for them? I know that Vicki went over this a little bit, so I'll just touch on it real briefly. We have 3, the Signature Scholar programs, the Danforth, Irvin, and the Rodriguez. You apply to all of these on the WashU pathway. You do have to hit apply on the application before you get access to the pathway, which is where those applications live. But all of their questions are available on their websites, so you can start those short answer form questions early on if you're still working on that application and don't want to get it submitted just yet. But next question we have, what is the best way, oh wait, no, sorry, that one was a repeat, that's my bad. All right.
So while you're looking for questions, I'm thinking of a couple of tips here for outside scholarships because that's still on my mind. One way to search for outside scholarships is to think of your major, think of what you're going into. So for instance, if you're going into engineer, and let's say you're a female, go to the Society of Women Engineers because they have scholarships available. If you're from the state of Missouri, we have what's called My Scholarship Central, which is one application form that you fill out, and then you just select every scholarship that's local to Missouri. It's the St. Louis metro area scholarship. So search your area, search where you are at to see if there are any databases or any quick applications where you can just fill out one application form and apply for all the different scholarships that are available. So that's one quick tip that I can think of to help.
Awesome. I love filling in with quick tips, but I'll give you another question before you give another one maybe. But can you talk a little bit more about the role of the Student Financial Services counselor in the process that works with each student?
Sure. So the counselors not only, of course, we want to help you in the beginning, understand your story, understand, what you need to make it possible for you to be at WashU. But once you're at WashU, you may have questions about your bill, like, why are you being charged a certain lab fee? Or, what happens if you want to move off campus in your upper class years? Is your financial aid package going to work? Do you want to go study abroad? All of that, as well as maybe putting together a budget. Let's say you decide to move off campus and you want to make sure that your financial aid will work with what you're looking at as far as paying for rent. When you move off campus, one of the things you have to think about is not only is there rent, but now do you have to pay for internet? Are there other utilities that you have to pay for? Whereas living on campus, we just charge one room fee. So it's not wrong to live off campus, but you want to make sure you understand what expenses there are. And the timing of, when do we give refunds to students, and maybe you need to take summer classes. So financial aid is for the 8 semesters that you're at WashU. So it is only fall, spring for 4 years. So summer, if you have to take summer, is going to be mostly loans. There are some programs where we do have some summer scholarships, but let's say it's mostly loans. Maybe you need help filling out loan documents. So any of that is when you'd want to turn to your financial aid counselor, and we can help set up a budget. We can go over your bill, just anything, that you feel. If your family dynamics are changing and you want to know how to fill out the forms for next year, if you need help filling out the FAFSA each year, any of that, just, let us know, and we'd be more than happy to work through all of that with you. We don't want finances to be on your mind while you're at school, right? We want everything to flow smoothly, but things happen. So again, just being able to reach out. If, for instance, I'm out on vacation or I'm out sick, any one of the other counselors can read my notes and know what you need or what your situation is, and will be able to help you. So don't ever feel that you can't just reach out. We have a counselor on duty during every workday, Monday through Friday. So there's always somebody on duty to help. Whether it's your counselor or not, any one of us can help you. So those are the resources that are available to you.
Excellent. I think that is a wonderful note to end on, just looking through our remaining questions as we are running out of time. So many of these are excellent questions that are personal to each and every one of you. So I highly recommend reaching out with these questions to our counselors who will be able to give you the best advice for you and your personal situation. Thank you again so much to everyone for joining us tonight, and to Vicki for answering everyone's questions so wonderfully. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And please visit our Visit Us Virtually website for more content, get to know WashU even more, tons of opportunities on there. And with that, have a great evening. Bye, everyone.
Good night.